Today we're going to talk about making rings. It's a new fad that's sweeping the country, and it's fairly easy to do. And so we're going to get you started today. Now, what we're talking about is taking little bands like this of stainless steel and covering them with different coverings to make different size rings. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do after we buy the ring and the bushings that we're going to use is to pick the wood. It could be anything. Two types of wood that we've used in the past. This is a piece of red heart. It's a very pretty wood. And this is a casting that's half wood, half acrylic. You can do all acrylic, you can do all wood, you can do combinations thereof. If you do casting, you've got all kinds of stuff. If you're not doing casting and you're going to use regular wood, just get a pretty wood. That's all it really is. There's no good woods or bad woods, just pretty woods. And you're good to go. So, how do we do it? Well, the first thing we need to make is something to support our ring when we turn. So in this lathe, we've got a regular chuck, and I've got a block of wood. I use a bass wood because it's a light, it's inexpensive, and it does a good job. To attach the piece of wood we're going to use for the ring. And since the rings are 4 millimeters wide, we don't need a big chunk of wood. So what I've got here is a chunk of wood that I cut off, and then I took a ruler and I made a cross on here. And basically I just used this one, and it's designed to give you the center of squares or center of circles. So we just take the wood, put it in here, take a pencil and draw a line, turn it over, draw a line, and where those two lines meet, that's the center of this piece of wood. And I've used a little awl here and made a hole. And the reason I made because I want this to be centered in this blank. And the easiest way to do that is once I've made the hole, I've got the double-sided turning tape on here. Now, there's two types of double-sided tape that we sell. We sell regular double-sided, and we sell double-sided turning tape. Turning tape is glue on steroids. It's really, really strong. So strong in fact that if you leave it on for 24 hours, it's a permanent bond. So what we want to do is we want to put this dead center of that. And the easiest way to do that is use our live center. It's got a little spike right there, and we put that in the middle of the hole and just take this whole thing and slide it till it hits. There. Now we want to lock this down, make sure this is, and give it a little turn to push it again. We want a nice, good, strong, tight connection. We want that to sit at least 15 minutes. Now what that's going to do, that's going to give the time for the tape to bond. And then after 15 minutes, first thing we're going to take this back. And we're going to drill a hole. Now to drill a hole, we're going to use a Jacob's chuck. This is just like you've seen a drill press. In fact, if you don't have one of these, but you have a drill, and you want to make a bunch of rings, you can get a blank, drill this in the drill press, take it up and just start slicing it and use those pieces here. And then we only need to drill in about 1 inch or 2. We just want to go deep enough so that we can use turning tool to get in here and not hit this wall, so we have a nice even edge all the way around on the inside. So that's going to go in now. What size do you use? It's different for different rings. I like to get something a little bit bigger than half. So if this is the ring we're going to turn, this is the lady's ring, this is a number 8. As you can see, that drill goes in there. So we got a lot of room left over on the side, and that's what we want. We want to start bringing the side in our turning out this way. So we're going to start with a hole, and as we drill and do that stuff, eventually we're going to end up with this. And here you see, here's our turning blank, here's our ring, and what we've done is I've drilled this and started turning it. And for these rings, especially the ladies' rings, carbide's okay, but a lot of times this is too big. And what I mean by that is carbide tool is supposed to meet where you're turning in the middle. And if I put this in the middle, I don't know if you can see it, but you can see part of the tool is actually touching the ring. That means this is as close as I can get to the edge. So normal tools like this, they're thick, won't work. This is a 1/4 inch bowl gouge. Tiny little thing, but it is perfect for hollowing out the ring. So I would bring it here. The neat part about a bowl gouge is I can set it this way and push in, or I can flip it this way so this edge is like that. And this is called a scraping cut. And I can just pull this out and pull this out, gradually expanding the hole. Now, when I get to where I'm close, and what I mean by that is I've always, at this point, if you go too big, you have to go to a different ring size, bigger one. But what we want is this to fit in here nice. Doesn't have to be really, really tight. You really don't want that, because if you put pressure on the side, crack the wood. So it's got to fit in there very nice, but it can't be really loose. When it sits in there, it can't move side to side. And this is just that way, so this is perfect. Well, how do I get it perfect? As I keep dropping those. You're going to get it very close, and when you're very close, thank you. When you're very close and you put this in, because this is a little higher in the middle, half it'll be in, half it'll be out. Okay? Then we're going to take sandpaper. This is 120 grit sandpaper, and all I do is just roll it up, turn the lathe on, and now I just come in here and sand. Just worry about one spot, because this is turning it around. So if you hit here, you're hitting the whole inside. And then stress the ring, do it again, test the ring, and eventually it'll fit perfectly. Stop what you're doing. It's so much easier if you use seam for the final sizing diameter, because this will give you wiggle room. If you're using a regular turning tool, you can blow through this in a second, and this number 8 ring becomes a number 9 ring. So sandpaper is the key. Another thing about this, if you're going to use a sanding block or a holding block like this, you can do one of two things. You could use regular wood glue and attach this, or you can use the double-sided tape. The double-sided tape, if you don't have a good bond halfway through the ring, that's going to come off. And you can still fix it, but you could use either or. Now, this is glued on. And gluing on is not hard. It's fairly simple. And when we part this off, we're going to part right here on this line, and then we'll be very good to go. We're going to set this in here now, and we're going to get an idea of how deep this needs to be. So, and the easier way to do that is to do this outside. So now we've got too much space here, so we're going to take some of this off. And again, on this, I can use the carbide tools because I'm outside. So you're going to come in, take a couple of, don't press hard, And always check. And we just want to get a little bit proud, because we can always take this with sandpaper. And just a little bit more. Very good. And now what we'll do is I'll park this off and then put some epoxy on the inside and put the ring blank in here and let it sit for a while till the epoxy dries. And then we go to the next step. Now the next step, so we'll take this off. For this next, we're going to treat this almost like a pen. We're going to use a mandrel. Got these two bushings. Now these bushings are designed, there's two sizes, small and medium. Small is for ring size 6 on down, and the medium is for 7 on up. So since we're using an 8, now what you see here is this is just a spacer. This is something I had in my shop. The mandrel I'm using has an adjustable nut here, so I can make this go in and out. I don't have to have a long mandrel with a whole bunch of spacers, but I do like this little spacer. So I'll put that there. And what we're going to end up with, we're going to have a ring that's even on the sides. It's going to be much thicker, and this is where we take it down to the final thickness. And you can see when these two bushings are here, it holds it perfectly. Now, something I use in my shop, and I highly recommend, this is a special live center. This live center is made for turners, especially turners who like to do pens, and you can see that this has just gone all the way through. There's a hole here. No more taking these nuts and trying to screw everything down to keep it in place. This does it. And because it's putting pressure right on the bushings and not on the mandrel won't bend and flex. It's a very, very good thing. So all I'm going to do now is lock this in. I'm going to put some pressure on here. And this plastic spacer that I use flexes. So this keeps a nice constant pressure this way once I lock everything in, and I'm ready to go. Now here's where I would use little turning tools. And you can see the metal here and here, so I can get at this very, very well. And this is where you're really, really delicate. Now, on this type of turning, I don't use the carbide for this. I go back either to this 1/4 inch bowl or 1/4 inch a spindle sander. And they do a very good job. And basically, you're starting in the center and just moving to the outsides. And just taking it down. Now, like the inside, I highly recommend when you get close to the shape that you want, stop with these and go to the sandpaper. The sandpaper will really allow you to dial it in as far as the nice smooth look. And I start at 150 and I go all the way through 800 on the sandpaper. It does a very, very good job. That's your final shaping, should always be sandpaper. It's too easy to get a catch. The wood is really thin now, so we want to just take our time. Sandpaper is awesome. And we have a sandpaper here. It's cloth back, but it comes in long rolls, so you just tear off a piece, and it allows you to go side to side. Does a great job. So this is all sanded, and ready to go. What do we put on for a finish? One of my favorite finishes is this Doctor's Pens Plus. Now, why do I like it? First of all, it's a friction finish, it's shellac, it's wax, and it's walnut oil. So the walnut oil is going to give the wood a very good rich luster. The shellac is a film finish that's going to stay on top, give me a nice barrier, and really sparkle. The wax in it is a special wax. It's a microcrystalline wax. This wax was developed by the British Museum. It specifically resists fingerprints, the oil in your fingers, and the 8,000 grit of your fingers. So this wax in here goes a long way to making both rings and pens stand up to handling over the test of time. Now, unlike most finishes, we actually want to shake this one. We want the wood, the lathe, to go up 1,000 RPMs. And this goes by heat, friction heat. So you put a little dollop on here. Don't need to go crazy. And we're going to see it's already getting shiny. Now I like to move to a new section. Again, a little dollop. And we can start building layers. The more layers we put on, the shinier it gets. Rings are jewelry. Now, if you're an avid hunter, you don't want to scare game, you can make one of these rings and keep it really a matte finish that reflects nothing. But since rings are jewelry and jewelry is meant to be seen, usually a high gloss finish is appropriate. But again, this is what you want to do. Here we have one, that's a number 7. And just to show you how this works, same bushings. And here you can see I can work on this just as easy. This is the smallest diameter that these big ones will do. If you wanted something, if you thought this was too big, get the next size down, and this will really poke out. But these large ones will go from 7 to 12, and then the smaller ones go from basically 6 on down. So that's it. Turning these rings is easy, it's fun. What you're going to need is, of course, you're going to need a lathe. You're going to need a mandrel, so you can use these 2 bushings. You're also going to need a chuck that you can hold the block of wood while you drill and while you turn. And if you already don't have a hole with a drill press, you're going to need a Jacob's chuck. You're going to need some pretty wood. To glue the blank onto the wood, I like to use this 5-minute epoxy. This is called Barrel Bond. It's a gel. You don't need much. Just a little dab will do you. Most people go crazy, they put too much on. Another good one to put on is a Fixie glue. But of the 2, I like this one the best. I think it holds up very well. Plus, as you heat the reed with your hand, epoxy is well known for being able to expand and contract and still grab hold. That's why they use it to put heads on golf clubs. So as the metal expands and contracts with temperature, the epoxy still holds it. I think it's a really good way to hold the ring together. Also, if you're going to make rings, you might want to make a ring holder with your lathe. And all this is a small bowl, but it's got a central pillar that comes out to like a pyramid, a big cone shape. And you'll notice that when you put your ring in there, It holds it really well. And when you put smaller rings on, it holds it further up the cone. So this is great to have near a sink, because normally if you wash your hands, you want to take the ring off. This is where you put it. If you put it on here, you can't knock it into the sink, go down the drain accidentally. And these are really fun to make. And they make great gifts to go with the rings. So that's it for this week. It's a really easy project to do. So thank you very much, and thanks for looking in.